Warning! The following video contains spoilers for all of Deltarune as of June 2025. You have been warned. Okay, now that that's out of the way, welcome. And I know what you're thinking. Woody Theory's dead. It's over. Let it go. But what if I told you there's still room to cope? That despite everything, we can still hold on to one last thread. And that the key lies with Asgore. Before I get into anything, I just want to say that I have never made a video like this in my life. I'm a music guy, so forgive me if this is a tad messy. Besides, we're all friends here. We all want Woody Theory to be real, don't we? No? Okay, well then just pretend you do for the next, 20 minutes. Real quick though, let's go over Woody Theory again. If you want a really in-depth perspective on this insanity, I'll link 2 other videos that covered it pre-chapters 3 and 4 in the description. But essentially, the original Woody Theory suggested that in Chapter 3, the secret boss that'd give us our 3rd shadowkristal would be a cowboy character from a cancelled television show. A lot of people were convinced, including me, considering the decent amount of evidence and the fact that Chapter 3 was already confirmed to be taking place within a TV world. Get it? TV world. Funnily enough, this all dates back to a couple of shitposts that Toby made during Deltarune's development on Tumblr, particularly ones he made in 2019 after the release of Chapter 1. At first glance, the creepy loop and sentence mix of "friend inside me" seems like nothing more than just that, a shitpost. But a lot of people ended up drawing the connection between that phrase and Chris's relationship with the soul, thus being the quote-unquote friend inside of them. Where the theory really started to gain traction though was during one of Deltarune's little progress updates, in which Toby tells us that a cowboy segment in Chapter 3 was in danger of being cancelled. Following up with, well, that's how cowboy shows go, I guess. Needless to say, the odd phrasing left a lot of people wondering if it was secretly teasing something more, especially now that we know that this ended up being a lie. But we'll come back to that. Woody Toy Story Secret Boss Chapter 3 very scary. Unfortunately though, as I assume everybody watching is aware, this was soon proven to be completely incorrect, and honestly, I can't blame anyone for missing the mark, as I doubt anyone, or at least the majority of the Deltarune community, would have subscribed to the idea that we'd be fighting the Roaring Knight, the whole-ass titan, before we're even halfway through the game. Let's not dwell on that though. If we're gonna fix Woody Theory, we need to look at what was fundamentally wrong, what evidence we can salvage, and how we can make it stronger than ever. Let's get started. What really was the problem with Woody Theory? Well, for starters, we collectively, as the Friend Inside Me fanbase, consider Jevil and Spamton as the start of a pattern with the secret bosses, something that I've seen mocked about many Deltarune fans. Pete and VB, the most popular adaptation of the Woody Theory concept thus far, despite how incredible the animation is, encapsulates this perfectly. I'd go as far as to say that most fans thought that all the secret bosses would be crazy darkners with cryptic dialogue that would try to get us to help them in some way before they turn around and try to kill us. The Roaring Knight and Gerson completely shattered this idea, and as the contents of the chapters still settle in, I'm seeing people question why Ram wasn't the secret boss, still holding on to the idea of that pattern we just mentioned. While I still can't completely blame anyone for doing so, Toby has proven to us that the chapters won't be following any sort of pattern. There's a really great video on this that I will also link in the description, but Deltarune's chapters signify one piece of a greater overarching story. So if we're going to be thinking about any theories going forward, we have to stop trying to reference non-existent patterns and start connecting more dots outside of just Chris and the soul. Because while I do think that connection is valid, I don't think Woody Theory holds any ground with just that anymore, especially with all the new information we have. That being said, in the past we have made connections with very little reason for doing so. While I would have loved for Maniac Mike to have been the slam dunk answer that I once thought it was, the Mike room in Chapter 4 pretty clearly told us that all of our attempts at solving Mike were wrong. Speaking of the Mike room, I'd like to get that out of the way now, because I've seen a lot of people say that the Mike room completely deconfirms Woody Theory, but I don't think this was the point at all. The Pippin's dialogue after the boss, at least to me, seemed like Toby was just poking fun at everyone's obsession with Mike and the way we tend to theorize about his game. Friend Cat is also very clearly referenced in the mic room, despite the fact that it's very obvious that Friend is a cat and a significant part of Deltarune. Could we still see a character named Mike? Possibly. I still think there's a fair chance that Mike is friend, but I don't think we should be talking about that in this video, and I won't be making any attempts at naming this cowboy character. But if he's got nothing to do with Mike, and we can't look back at the previous secret bosses for any clues, what can we turn to? Was the Cowboy Show's comment from earlier just a throwaway reference to the death of the Western? Well, my friends inside me, I wondered the same thing. As mentioned previously, the cowboy segment was entirely present in Chapter 3. Those 2 minutes of mildly entertaining shootout action, entirely intact. Here's where things get interesting. After the second board, if you try to talk to Tenna again after Susie, you get some interesting dialogue. It seems like a whole lot of nothing at first, until...
By the way, seen your father recently? Your brother? You know, we still got that cowboy program, the one your dad likes. He was bouncing you on your knee as you watched it together. Sorry, Chris. Sorry. I have to go.
Huh. A cowboy show, huh? And the one Chris's dad likes. Asgore. Okay, well, the show wasn't cancelled, clearly. Tenna says that they still have the cowboy show, right? Doesn't mean anything. This is just an extra piece of lore, you know? Like the dialogue before the cooking and rhythm games. We were just reading too deep into the whole cancelled thing. If only. Some of you already know. Deltarune data miners have found Tenna's third board. It is almost entirely complete, meaning it was likely cut very late into Chapter 3's development. And hey, I know some of you aren't exactly fond of people using unused content as evidence, but just walk with me here. In one of the quizzes on this board, you get this dialogue. Really? Come on, really? I know unused content, but I really truly do think that at the very least, we can assume that this fact, that Asgore's favorite cowboy puppet show being cancelled, is canon. If you find Toby's phrasing from earlier to be suspicious, then you probably think it implies the existence of a cancelled cowboy show. And before the final game, Tenna straight up confirms that one existed and was Asgore's favorite. This line is from what would have been the third board, meaning Tenna was only going to find out it was cancelled here after he mentioned it to Chris. More importantly though, I'd like to ask you all a question. Why was this ever going to be in the game at all? I mean, this quiz specifically, like, is this not kind of eerie? This doesn't happen with any other quiz in the game, not even when Tenna's got the fun gang trapped in plastic balls losing his goddamn mind. Like, does this not seem like something that could potentially be relevant later? That just leaves us wondering, when? Well, remember when I said that the key to solving this theory is Asgore? Well, now's the time. Let's actually talk about Asgore. As most of you, I'm sure, are aware, a lot of people are speculating that Chapter 5 will include a dark world inside Asgore's Flower King shop. For starters, when fighting Gerson in Chapter 4, he runs through the chapters of his series Lord of the Hammer, which we learn is based on the prophecy. Each of the chapters seem to vaguely reflect things we've experienced thus far, but then he goes on to Chapter 5.
The field of pink and gold. The vast garden is charred in an inferno of jealousy.
What could this mean? Well, where could we see some jealousy in our cast of characters? Noelle, jealous of Chris's bond with Susie? Highly doubt it, especially after their talk earlier in the chapter. Caddy, jealous of Susie's bond with Noelle? I mean, sure. But what does she have to do with Fields? Now, Asgore. Not only does he have a very strong reason to be jealous of Sans, but he is literally the owner of Hometown's flower shop. Furthermore, there's a hidden prophecy depicting Asgore, the Flower Man, trapped in asylum. Not only do we know that Lord of the Hammer was based on the prophecy, but this is very clearly Asgore, right? Notice the crown as well. This isn't Undertale. Asgore doesn't have any sort of crown here. You know who does though? Toriel. In the Dark World. And Asgore is holding a flower here. Lastly, and most damningly, when separated from Chris as the soul, if you take the opportunity to explore through the vents, you discover that Asgore owns a black shard. A weapon that, as far as we are aware, is only dropped by none other than the Roaring Knight. I think that this is implying that Asgore has been to a dark world before, and possibly came face to face with the Roaring Knight, as we had to put up a good fight against it in order to earn that black shard. I mean, Asgore used to be a cop, and Undyne, we're told, has some sort of relationship with the shelter. It's not completely out of the question, right? Perhaps the next chapter, chapter 5, is when we will see this canceled cowboy show idea be capitalized upon. If Susie's Susie Zilla comment that she makes in passing to Noelle in chapter 2 can reappear in a debatably significant way, why couldn't this? Something that, if you believe everything I've told you thus far, has been foreshadowed for quite some time. And besides what Tenna believes to be Asgore's favorite show, we know that Asgore is fond of pop culture. He's not above watching puppet shows in this day and age if he can genuinely enjoy Mew Mew Kissy Cutie 2 and owns comic books that are totally his, considering all of Chris and Azrael's belongings are at their house. But outside of what I'm alleging is foreshadowing and the friend inside me Chris soul parallels we've all come to understand, what would really be the point of introducing a character like this, and what significance would it have to Asgore? Let me ask you all another question. Why is this Asgore's favorite show? Why were we given this detail? I mean, think about it. If this was, say, a sneaky reference that Tricky Tony wanted to make to Woody Theory just for the shits, Tenna's question could have been, what popular show got canceled? And the same answer and dialogue afterwards would have worked perfectly, the exact same. But we were explicitly told that it's Asgore's favorite, or at least he intended for us to hear that it was Asgore's favorite. Now, this is going to sound pretty odd at first, but just please walk with me, okay? Walk with me. I don't think the most important detail about this is the fact that it's a cowboy show, or even the fact that it's a puppet show, but the fact that it was canceled. That Asgore's favorite show was canceled. Deltarune has established that Asgore is someone who holds on to the past to a depressingly obsessive degree. Toriel has rejected the Dreamer name for so long that Miss Toriel has dried up on the whiteboard in her class as if it's been there for years, and Asgore still, as far as we can tell, daily tries to win her over, even after witnessing her laughing it up with Sans in his little grocery store. The guy hides in bushes outside of the church she attends just to try and fail to give her flowers. Even outside of this, if we assume all of his crazy Pepe Sylvia corkboard ramblings have to do with Des, which they most likely do, he's been desperately searching even harder than Noelle just to try and get things back to how they were in the past.
Just hope that Azrael will be able to see us all back to normal. We'll all be a happy family again, won't we?
I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm crazy like every other friend inside fanatic, but something about Asgore clinging on to his favorite old canceled show is seriously in character for him. And I think this would be especially hammered home if the show was in black and white. I mean, this is Woody Theory after all. The whole point is to draw connections back to Woody's Roundup from Toy Story 2, right? And truth be told, it's honestly the last major aspect of the show we've yet to draw a connection to. Now, this might be a reach, and I'm saying that as if most of this theory isn't already reaching, but could you imagine if the TV in Asgore's shop was a black and white television? And that this cowboy puppet show, like Woody's Roundup, was also in black and white? There's a piece of Shudder dialogue that I haven't seen many people talk about that I think could possibly be noteworthy for our purposes here.
In the once upon a time, there was a land like purple cliffs, a frozen waste, watery basin, a metal desert. But this theater was built upon that, and it grew. Not everyone liked the change. Some people left. Of course, that was in the days of the black and white.
Now, at first glance, you might take note of this line, seemingly calling back to Undertale's key locations: Snowdin, Waterfall, and Hotlands. But I just like to look at this dialogue in the context of the Light World. What if this line is referring to when the TV set was installed in the Dreamer living room? We know that actions in the Light World will translate to history within the Dark World in mysterious ways, so it isn't entirely out of the question. Maybe, originally, the TV that was installed was in black and white. And "it grew" refers to when that TV was replaced with the one we know as Tenna, the TV that is noticeably bigger than the one in Asgore's shop. Besides, for someone who can barely afford rent, where's he getting a TV from unless it was donated to him or something, or he found it in an alleyway? But something tells me that sentimental Asgore would hold on to something as pointless to own as a black and white TV in the 21st century if it reminded him of when things were normal. But then again, that's all speculation, and who says that the cowboy show has to be in black and white anyway? It doesn't have to be one-to-one with Woody's Roundup. It's not like the post that kickstarted this entire descent into madness didn't have a black and white photo of Woody. In summary, this is what I like to call Neo-Woody theory. I believe that in Chapter 5, we will get to see a cowboy character from Asgore's favorite cancelled, maybe black and white television show, and Asgore will be very fond of him. I believe there is opportunity for him to be a secret boss. However, I'd like us to take the opportunity to imagine what this character would be like as a main antagonist in the same way as King, Queen, and Tenna, or maybe even some kind of Ram-esque ally, albeit much, much creepier. Especially as the Chris Soul dynamic creeps further and further into the limelight, it'd be interesting to see this highlighted in a much more significant way in the Dark World outside of a secret boss battle. I also think this character will serve to contribute to what I believe the form of escapism will be in Chapter 5, as that is a relevant theme in my opinion, even after the new chapters were released. So far we've seen card games and toys, the internet, television, and religion. Chapter 5 very well could be nostalgia, escapism into one's past. They'd also likely reflect Chris to an extent, being a puppet and all. The friend inside them could still be a speaker of some kind with a good old Sheriff Woody pull string. God, how'd we get here? All this because Tenna said it was Asgore's favorite. Thanks for listening to my demented ramblings. Hopefully this fulfilled some sense of hope and Woody theory for some of you. Unfortunately though, I'm afraid this theory will just be forgotten to time by most, so think of this as a final strand of cope as we say goodbye. I mean, unless we get some direct connection between cowboys and flowers, we can't... Wait. Floral cowboy bath curtains? Floral cowboy bath curtains? Oh my god! Okay, that's really it this time. Let me know your thoughts in the comments and if I should ever take a shot at this again, or if I should just leave the theorizing to the theorist. But anywho, just remember that we're all in this together, and no matter who's right and who's wrong, we're all going to be blown away by the end product regardless. Chapters 3 and 4 were incredible, and I really, really cannot wait until we get to see what's in store next year. Lastly, I wanted to just give a huge thanks to Spaceboid and CybbrGhost. Spaceboid made this cool thumbnail that I threw up in the video earlier that you saw, and out of a chicken scratch sketch that I sent them to. If you want to see that, here it is. It's ridiculous. CybbrGhost convinced me to use a cross arms rant sona for this video, and he made the art for these little, these little poses. So yeah, big thanks to you guys. You're awesome. Anyway, with that being said, have a great day, everybody. Thank you for watching, and have a good one.